Super Metroid is my favourite game. I personally consider it to be perfect. There is absolutely nothing about the game I would change. It is a masterpiece. It's one of the most genre-defining games that has ever been created, inventing the action exploration genre and influencing untold game developers and designers to this very day, earning its spot as a pinnacle of what a game can be. But how did it come about? How did it get this way? Join me in my history of Super Metroid as I delve into the making of this classic, from conception to completion. I'm not going to review the game or talk about its impact on gaming after it was released. That information has been covered 1,000 times and isn't anything new. This is something different. This is the pitch, the creation, the design and development of an absolute classic. Welcome to the making of Super Metroid. In 1990, Yoshio Sakamoto, a producer at Nintendo, was not satisfied with his position. He had recently worked on Balloon Kid, a Game Boy title, and before that various Famicom Disk System games, whilst also working with Nintendo Research and Development 1, also known as R&D1, led by legendary Nintendo designer Gunpei Yokoi, on various Game Boy titles, and the one-hit wonder NES title Kid Icarus. His thoughts pined back to one of his crowning works up until then, NES action exploration Metroid. By 1990, his eyes were looking forlornly at Nintendo's upcoming flagship Super Famicom, with an eye to make a Metroid sequel. He was not interested in the actual Metroid sequel that was currently being developed for the Game Boy, leaving the rest of R&D1, headed by artist Hiroji Kiyotaki, to lead that, while he continued designing and pitching a true console sequel to Metroid. Sakamoto brought together a small group of R&D1 insiders and programmers from Intelligent Systems, a second-party developer closely affiliated with Nintendo, to start designing the Metroid sequel. At this point, Nintendo had not approved the sequel, and they were extremely hesitant to. The first Metroid, whilst well received critically, had not sold well, and R&D1 as a whole was known for producing solid titles, but rarely producing big franchises. This was part of a bigger rivalry within Nintendo between Gunpei Yokoi and Miyamoto, who led EAD, as whilst Yokoi could produce excellent one-hit wonders such as Ice Climbers and various Game Boy hits, they weren't known for producing smash franchises such as Super Mario or The Legend of Zelda. Despite this, after constant pitching, 6 months later Makoto Kano, Sakamoto's boss, was given approval by Gunpei Yokoi to join Sakamoto and officially start development on a Metroid game for the Super Famicom, which would become, in due course, Super Metroid. The design and concept of the game had already been established before the release of Metroid 2. They wanted to see how far they could push the Super Famicom to generate, in Sakamoto's words, a greater power of expression and enhance the game world with high quality graphics, all whilst working with an essentially unchanged concept. Sakamoto wanted to build on the expressiveness on Metroid 2, but achieve greater presence, something closer to reality. The end of Metroid 2 directly influenced the start of Super Metroid, with the final scene in Metroid 2 in which the baby Metroid is born and spared by Samus, leading directly to the events on the space station, in which the space pirate Ridley attacks, stealing the Metroid and taking it to the living planet Zebes, the scene of the first game. Zebes was greatly expanded upon for Super Metroid. The game was designed in such a way that it was a giant labyrinth-themed puzzle in which every single part is connected with another part, with doors that would only open under certain circumstances, and an emphasis being put on designing a perfect labyrinth without any mistakes or dead ends. Nothing was in the game for no reason, and everything had a purpose. Designing a next-gen Metroid game wasn't just about the graphics, but also the level design. Sakamoto and the rest of the team were extremely reluctant to make use of any of the storytelling methods that RPGs and adventure games had begun to utilise. They didn't want to explain anything to the player, instead designing the game in such a way that they would be able to play and work things out for themselves. The maps were created so the player couldn't progress or escape without exploration, or they would end up going in a circle and ending up back where they started, but with additional options for progression. The player would have to think about the area, feeling their way through the game. A core objective was that when a player discovered a new item or area, they wanted the player to feel that they had made that discovery independently, without any help from the game, and feel a sense of achievement from that. This created some issues for Sakamoto. There was pressure from inside Nintendo to have some sort of dialogue or storytelling in the game, but Sakamoto was extremely stubborn, believing that the essence of Metroid was always to be found in the gameplay mechanics, not the story. Many different games and movies influenced Super Metroid, but Sakamoto stated that one of the major influences on the art direction was H.R. Geiger's Necronomicon and the film Alien. They wanted the game to have a different feel from other Nintendo titles, feeling as if they were projecting a different image from within Nintendo, something a little darker, influenced by science fiction, and hopefully unique. Whilst the game was in prototype stage, there was just Sakamoto, another Nintendo designer, and a few programmers from Intelligent Systems. They explored what would be possible and how to make the game more fun to play, what new ideas and systems they could incorporate into the game. Intelligent Systems, also known as INTSYS, provided indispensable technical know-how for the project. Nintendo and INTSYS have a mutually beneficial relationship. INTSYS is a second-party developer. He has always worked extremely closely with Nintendo, specialising in the hardware side of things. The programmers from INTSYS gave the Nintendo developers crucial advice and ideas on what the new Super Famicom was technically capable of, which features they could use and how to utilise them. This was indispensable to the team, as the Super Famicom early on gained a reputation as being a difficult console to develop for. This was due to how the VRAM could be partitioned. Poor partitioning could severely limit the on-screen capabilities, so efficient and clever coding was crucial. The developers from both Nintendo and INTSYS ended up having a lot of fun with the hardware, driven by not wanting to be outdone by the arcade games and competing consoles of the time. After this prototype stage, NCL, aka Nintendo Company Limited, drafted in the rest of the team. The core team, eventually formed by Sakamoto and Kano, consists of around 14 people, divided into 5 designers, 7 programmers and 2 musicians, with freelancers being brought into the project at various points when they became necessary. All of the INTSYS staff provided to the project were programmers, but despite this, there was no rivalry between the two company staff, just harmony and cooperation. The teamwork had very beneficial results, with one of the key designers on the Nintendo side, Tomomi Yamane, constantly consulting with the INTSYS team about what images could be displayed on the console, influencing his design and increasing his knowledge of the hardware considerably. Much of the team is made up of young trainees and junior developers. This created a contrast within the team, but Sakamoto credits the youth with bringing a certain let's go for it spirit to the project, energising the older developers in what was becoming an increasingly harsh development cycle. By the time development had begun in earnest, Nintendo's lack of faith in the project began to show. The budget was constantly being cut, and the game was threatened with cancellation 3 times due to the fact the cartridge size was growing continuously, as well as the development team missing many of their deadlines. The mood within Nintendo was already wary of the project, so any indications that all may not be going according to schedule was particularly damning. For the entire team, it was their Super Famicom debut. This brought up many problems. One being, the larger scope of the game meant that more sprites and artwork was required, with every developer and designer having some sort of input. This backfired somewhat, as it resulted in a mishmash of styles that were not consistent with one another, causing the lead designer, Tomomi Yamane, to have to go back through and retouch almost everything that had been submitted in order to unify the game's presentation. The musical composition for the game, as well as every sound effect, was created by 2 musicians, Manako Hamano and Kenji Yamamoto. They built upon the original Metroid themes created by Hirokazu Tanaka, expanding upon them and making many new themes as well. They used acoustic instruments and synthesizers to experiment and compose the score before converting them into digital properties that could be played by the Super Nintendo. The soundtrack became a mix of brooding, dark atmospheric music, fast action-style pieces, and triumphant overtures, and pushed the Super Nintendo sound chip to its absolute limit, delivering an orchestral masterpiece. Despite this, the pair was not convinced of many of the sound effects they had created in the game, feeling them a little flat, particularly the screams of Samus and the aliens when they died. To remedy this, Manako Himano stood in front of a microphone and began whimpering and letting out cries, with the results creating a far more unsettling and fitting sound for the game. There are, however, conflicting reports about the exact usage of her voice, with some places reporting that it was directly used, and others saying that it was too sexual so it wasn't used. Regardless, either way, it was a direct influence on the final product, whether or not it was directly replicated. The team was going to great lengths to achieve a balance. The items, locations, puzzles, bosses, enemies, and Samus's various acquired abilities all had to work in conjunction with one another, and creating the balance was a constant battle. It meant they often had to experiment, and then build and rebuild until they got the balance right, which in turn led to the development time extending and deadlines being missed. They were adamant not to create an on-rails experience, so balancing the progression and exploration was key in creating the game they wanted to make. Gunpei Yokoi was the general project manager of Super Metroid by default, as he was the head of R&D1. However, he took a hands-off approach to the development of the game, leaving it in the hands of producer Sakamoto and his boss, Makoto Kano. Yokoi often visited the team with fresh ideas, but became increasingly frustrated with the project as it went on. With deadlines and objectives being missed, Kano was even given a final warning concerning his position within the company at some point. This led to a frenzied final stage of development, in when the Higashiyama building, the headquarters of NCL at the time, became almost a sort of boarding house. During the last 6 months of development, many of the staff ended up working extreme overtime, with a nap room being designated when the staff felt they didn't have time to go home. Sakamoto recalled there always being at least 10 members of staff working throughout the night, with the place ending up resembling a zoo. Sakamoto said that the nap room was not a clean place, and all the other workers at Nintendo would often give them funny looks, as they were all overworked and unclean during the final stages of development. Gunpei Yokoi was angry about the staff pushing themselves to such extreme lengths. However, the developers' passion for the project was unbridled, as many felt a great sense of ownership and mission for the project, wanting to create something truly fantastic. In 1994, after years of principal development, since the original idea of the game back in 1990, the game was finally ready to test. All of the staff members spent 1 month constantly playing through the entire game, correcting any bugs found, adjusting the difficulty, and perfecting the course of a playthrough. This was followed by an additional month of testing by freelancers, brought in to give a fresh pair of eyes to the project. These people had no involvement with the project whatsoever, so could offer a unique perspective compared to the people that had become intimately involved with the game over the years, being able to give their true opinions, as they wouldn't feel any sort of pride over the project. They were asked to test the game and find bugs, as well as give their opinions on the difficulty, the areas, the graphics, the controls, and more. This was tremendously useful to the developers, allowing them to perfect the game, and then finally, in the spring of 1994, Super Metroid hit Japanese shelves. Within Nintendo, the game surpassed expectations. Every one of the team members was redeemed, and they managed to prove themselves. Gunpei Yokoi held the game in such high regard that he became addicted to playing it, and after this, whenever anyone brought him a pitch for a game he didn't think was good, he asked them to go away and play Super Metroid before coming back to him, holding it up as the perfect example of a game. This was surprising to many within Nintendo, as Yokoi was notorious for not dishing out praise, so his recommendation really meant a lot. The reception around the world was equally impressive, with many outlets giving the game a near perfect scores, and it being received as one of the best games not only to hit the Super Nintendo and Super Famicom, but any console ever. Despite this universal acclaim, sales figures were average and did not perform as well as Nintendo might have hoped given the scores. It was competing against Donkey Kong Country as well as the upcoming Sega Saturn, and it was very late into the console's lifespan, when many gamers' attention had somewhat drifted from 16-bit consoles, as the new batch of 32-bit consoles was fast approaching. Over the years, Super Metroid has gradually managed to build up its reputation, and is now held as a true Nintendo classic, receiving successful sequels on the GameCube and cementing Samus as a Nintendo heavyweight. It's clear that everyone involved with the project was passionate about the game, and that truly shows. There isn't one area of the game which was done lazily. Everything from the level design, the sprites, the music, and the gameplay is the absolute pinnacle of a 2D game, and what the Super Nintendo was capable of. It shows that a game doesn't need to sell particularly well to be a classic, and Super Metroid will almost definitely stand the test of time. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It'd be great to see everyone's story of when they first played Super Metroid in the comments below, and what you felt when you played it, and what you think of it today. If you have any suggestions for future videos, do let me know, and I really hope you subscribe, like and share. Goodbye!
これがメトロイド。
まだ幼虫だ。しかしこのエネルギーは人類の役に立つかもしれん。あ、ベビーメトロイドが奪われる。
緊急指令。スペースハンターサムス・アラン。さらわれたベビーメトロイドを奪い返す。
スーパーファミコンソフトスーパーメトロイド。とてつもない地下要塞が待ち受けている。
Hey, I'm Owen, and it's super effective. And did you know that Super Metroid was the game that popularized speedrunning? The world's record to beat that game is 41 minutes, and if you collect every item, it's an hour and 13. Both records held by Brendan D. Moore. Sit right there. This is Metroid Facts.
The last Metroid is in captivity.
When Super Metroid was released, it was actually the largest game ever made for the SNES at 24 megabits. So Super Metroid was the last Metroid game to be released while series creator Gunpei Yokoi was still alive. The game director for the original Metroid, Yoshio Sakamoto, actually skipped Metroid 2 in order to work on Super Metroid for the SNES. So apparently during development, a lot of the enemies in Super Metroid were too cute. So they actually had to redesign them so you didn't feel bad about blowing them up. In Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, we learn about Aurora units, which are these weird mechanical beings similar to Mother Brain. In the trailer, we actually see them in an area that looks very much like where Mother Brain is held in Super Metroid, hinting that this is where the space pirates originally made their base. So Super Metroid was actually intended to be the series finale. They wanted to go out on a high note. And this kind of explains the huge gap from Super Metroid to Metroid Prime. In Smash Bros. Melee, you can unlock the Metroid trophy. And if you look closely, you'll see the Ceres space colony reflecting off of it. This is the base from Super Metroid. So in speedrunning, there's this popular technique called the Mach Ball, which lets you morph into a morph ball while you're mid-jump, and lets you get certain items way faster than intended, specifically super missiles. At the end of Super Metroid, when you're escaping the planet, you can take a detour to rescue the Edacoons, the little furry green guys, and that weird giant bird thing. In Metroid Fusion, you end up rescuing them again, and they seem to recognize Samus, implying they're the same creatures. And they also have some really bad luck. Let's talk glitch beams for a bit. There are several glitch beams in Super Metroid, one of which is called the Murder Beam. It combines all beams at once and creates an invisible, damaging pillar area, which is kind of cool. And in fact, it sticks to Ripley's tail, damaging him continually. So another one of the glitch beams is the Chainsaw Beam. It's a combination of the Wave Beam, Spazer, and Plasma Beam. Unfortunately, it's kind of unimpressive because it does no damage and it's only capable of destroying fake blocks or opening doors. Lame. Lastly is the Space-Time Beam or Reset Beam, which is even doper than it sounds. So when you use it, you actually go back in time and reset the game. It revives all of the bosses and puts every item back in its original place, but you keep all the stuff you collected. It's almost like a DIY New Game Plus. So in Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, in Skeleton Cave, there's a skull that looks just like Crocomire from Super Metroid. This is interesting because they both kind of fit in that Metroidvania genre that they helped pioneer together. So there are a couple placeholder scanned images that suggest that Parasite Queen was influenced or reminiscent of Dragon from Super Metroid. Crocomire makes a cameo appearance in Donkey Kong Country Returns in the Foggy Fumes level. You can see his skull in the background. This is interesting because both games were developed by Retro Studios. So there are these creepy, weird skull shapes on Dragon's head that kind of resemble the Covern enemies in the wrecked ship. Whether this is intended or it just means Dragon is related to Phantoon is kind of up for debate, but I'll leave that for you to decide. In Super Metroid, if you're at less than 50 health, have at least 10 missiles and super missiles, and at least 11 power bombs, you can perform the Crystal Flash technique, which is kind of cool. You use a power bomb, absorb all its energy, and heal yourself to full. So the staff who were developing Super Metroid worked really hard during the last phase of development. Here's what Yoshio Sakamoto had to say. During the final 6 months of development, I didn't know where I lived anymore. The Nintendo building was like a boarding house for the Super Metroid team. It got to the stage where I really don't remember going home at all. There was a nap room where it was okay to sleep, but sometimes it was full of sleeping, overworked Super Metroid staff. Those were the worst times, when I wanted to sleep but couldn't, and I didn't even have time to go home. There were always between 10 and 15 of us in the office through the night, so we had to take naps in turns. The nap room wasn't being cleaned or looked after at all because we were usually using it. One morning, staff from another area came to wake us up and told us that the room smelled like a zoo. Another employee put room freshener in the nap room, but that only made the place worse. Everyone in Nintendo gave us funny looks. In the Super Metroid comic, they say that the Crystal Flash technique that heals you up to full with a power bomb is one of the Chozo's most advanced techniques, but it's never mentioned in any other Metroid game. So did you know that Yoshio Sakamoto's wife was an unofficial tester for Super Metroid? During beta development, he brought home a copy of the game for her and their children to playtest. Okay, so you probably know that if you go into the Morph Ball with a fully charged charge beam, you'll immediately drop 5 bombs. Did you realize though that unlike normal bombs, those ones are affected by gravity? So there's actually code for 3 enemies in Super Metroid that weren't in the final game. Bang, a kind of cell-like creature that would absorb your shots and then explode. Reflect, who would creatively bounce things back at you when you shot. And Stoke, who was kind of like a miniature Crocomire. So in Super Metroid, there's actually like a secret bonus charge beam attack with every other beam. So what you have to do is you equip the charge beam and the beam you want to use, unequip every other beam, select power bombs in your item slot, and charge up your cannon. So Super Metroid is really cool because the bosses actually react in unique ways to different weapons being used against them. So if you powerbomb Crocomire, he'll freak out and get pissed off. And if you Super Missile Phantoon, he'll go into a rage. Whoa, those are some awesome Metroid facts. Man, I love Super Metroid. Definitely one of my favorite games for the SNES. Although I have to confess, I never managed to earn the sweet bikini ending. Did you though? Let me know in the comments below, and like, comment, and subscribe because it's super effective.
Before Nintendo came out with Super Metroid, we wanted to make sure it was the most intense Metroid battle ever. So we thought we'd see how Killer here would fare against it. Ready, boys? That's 24 megs worth of weapons, worlds, and weirdos old Killer's up against. Nintendo's biggest game ever. He's a big boy. He can handle it. Well, let's see how he did. Ship it! Super Metroid, only on the Super NES.
Samus Aran's story begins on K2L, a colony housing the precious crystal of Floraltite. Ridley and the space pirates raid the colony for a Floraltite, destroying everything in the process. Samus' father, Rodney, decides that the only sensible thing to do is to blow up the ship carrying all of the Floraltite along with himself. Ridley encounters a young Samus, and just before he kills her, Samus' mother sacrifices herself to save her. The Chozo, a race of alien birds, discover the orphan Samus and take her to Zebes to raise her because having alien birds for parents isn't creepy or traumatic at all. They infuse her with Chozo DNA and gift her with the power suit to help her endure Zebes conditions. The Chozo elders meet to discuss the threat of X-parasites, an organism that can infect a host, replicate its DNA, and kill the host in the process. The Chozo fear that if revealed to the galaxy, X-parasites might be abused for its power. To combat X-parasites, they engineered the Metroid, a bioweapon meant to prey on X-parasites because fighting a deadly parasite with another deadly parasite was the only solution they could come up with. Ridley and his space pirates raid Zebes for Chozo tech and their Metroid. In the process, the Chozo-built supercomputer Motherbrain decides that she's way too smart for her creators and joins Ridley to replace the obsolete Chozo race with the space pirates. But Samus escapes Zebes and so begins Metroid. Have fun.
Nintendo presents Super Metroid, das beste Action-Adventure für Super Nintendo. 24 Macs, die unter die Haut gehen. 6 gigantische Welten. Nur für Super Nintendo.
Guess who's back? It's me, Pete. And that's right, you're gonna learn about Ridley today from the Metroid series. Did you know Ridley doesn't need oxygen to breathe? Like, he flies through space. And I will warn you sitting out there that there's a little bit of spoilers today. So if you're sensitive to that, sit right there anyways, because you're gonna hear about it. Ridley, it's super effective.
38 historic Ridley facts.
Ridley is the main reoccurring enemy from the Metroid series, although interestingly, not usually the final boss, usually the second or third last boss. Ridley looks like a dragon, but he's actually more so just an extraterrestrial. In some non-canon Metroid fiction, such as the comic Samus and Joey and Captain N, the 80s-90s TV show, they do imply Ridley is of the space dragon species. Ridley's first encounter with Samus is when he attacks her homeworld and slaughters her parents. Although luckily, Samus was adopted by the Chozo species and trained to be a super badass. In some Metroid Zero Mission concept art, Ridley is referred to as the cunning god of death. Whoa! According to some Metroid manga, Ridley can heal himself by eating human flesh. Ridley fights for the Space Pirates and only the Space Pirates as a high-ranking commander. You know, they keep bringing Ridley back to life. Ridley has actually changed sizes throughout the history of the Metroid franchise. In the original 1986 Metroid on NES, Ridley was about the same size as Samus. Although in more recent entries like, Super Metroid and Metroid Prime, Ridley is 2 to 3 times the size of Samus. They even stated that the reason that Ridley's not a fightable character in Smash Bros. Is because he's too big. Ridley has appeared in every single Metroid game other than Metroid 2, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, and Metroid Prime Hunters. In Metroid on the NES, Samus encounters Ridley and totally destroys him. Although there are some differences between that version due to the fact that the Japanese Famicom had more memory. Ridley's fireballs will actually act more randomly in that boss fight. The load times are faster, enemy encounters are a little bit more randomized, and you can save your game versus entering a password every time. But Ridley didn't actually die. He comes back again and again. He came back again in Metroid Prime as Meta Ridley, in Metroid Prime 3 as Omega Ridley, and again in Super Metroid as just another organic Ridley. And the reason I went in that order? Because Metroid Prime, the trilogy, actually comes between the first Metroid and Super Metroid. When Samus destroys Ridley in Super Metroid, Ridley burns up and destroys Planet Zebes with him. In Metroid Other M, they refer to this as the final true death of Ridley, although we know he comes back. Meta Ridley in Metroid Prime makes a little bit more sense. Codenamed Geoform 187, it's actually just a cybernetic clone of another species, codenamed Ridley. So no, it's not true Ridley. Meta Ridley stalks Samus the entire time in Metroid Prime as she explores Talon 4, and only appears as the second last boss in the Chozo Ruins before being defeated and shot off a cliff. Ridley did not make an appearance in Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, although apparently there's concept art of a Dark Ridley. What never was. Ridley does come back in Metroid Prime 3 as the powerful Omega Ridley, although it's really just Meta Ridley infused with the powerful substance Phazon. Samus is lucky enough to fight Omega Ridley twice in Metroid Prime 3, once while falling down a shaft on Norian, and again at the very end of the game, the third final boss, defending the pirate homeworld. So Ridley had a mechanized rebirth in Metroid Prime 1 and 3. But how did he come back in Super Metroid? The truth? Nobody knows. Ridley makes an appearance again in Metroid Other M, when the Galactic Federation foolishly, accidentally, clones Ridley from DNA that they found on Samus's power suit. Early in the game, Samus comes across a little furry creature known as Little Birdie, which is actually the infant form of the clone Ridley, which evolves into the full Ridley that you later fight. When you fight Ridley, you beat him, but he comes back, only to be destroyed by the real final boss, the Queen Metroid. Ridley comes back again in Metroid Fusion, this time as Neo Ridley. How does he keep doing it? This time from being cloned from an ex-parasite. Ridley also appears as an end secret boss in the re-released Metroid Zero Mission as Robotic Ridley, or Mecha Ridley. This is an unfinished robotic version of Ridley that can't fly or move. And apparently it was designed and created by Ridley himself. Yes, this space dragon is so vain, it created a robotic version of itself. Ridley makes a couple of guest star appearances too. In Dead or Alive Dimensions on the 3DS, you can see Ridley fighting enemies in the background of the geothermal power plant stage. Ridley also makes an appearance in the Wii U launch title Nintendo Land as an animatronic boss in the Metroid Blast minigame. Ridley has always had a fun time with the Smash Bros. Series as well. In the first Smash Bros. 64, you can see Ridley fighting in the background of the ZB stage. In Smash Bros. Melee, Ridley is seen in the opening cutscene. In Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Meta Ridley is a boss during the Subspace Emissary. In Smash Bros. For Wii U, Ridley is an enemy/stage hazard in the Pyrosphere level, even though fans begged and begged for Ridley to join the roster. Oddly, Ridley has no appearance in Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS, not even as a trophy. Ridley also has an appearance in Metroid Prime Pinball on the DS, flying around on the Chozo Ruins table, attacking your Morph Balls, or your Pinballs, or whatever. There's also concept art for Metroid Zero Mission of a Ridley 2, a Ridley that has a third claw on the end of its tail. This was unfortunately never released. Ridley also has his own theme song called Versus Ridley. Check it out, it's playing right now. It's speculated that Ridley is named after the director Ridley Scott, who directed the movie Alien in 1979, 7 years before Metroid came out on the NES. It could be argued that Ridley holds a strong resemblance to the Xenomorph from the Alien franchise, with their long tail and predator-like attitudes. But I'll leave that up for you to decide. In the highly anticipated upcoming 3DS release, Metroid Prime Federation Force, it is yet to be seen if Ridley's going to make an appearance. So Ridley has died, his mechanized version has died, his Omega version has died, his clone has died, his X-Parasite has died. He's died and come back so many times. Is he gonna come back again? Well, I'm gonna leave that for you to decide. Whoa, that's a lot of Ridley. I personally love Ridley. Do you love Ridley? You know what? I'm sorry if I spoiled anything for you, but if you didn't already know all those facts, then shame on you. Go out and buy those Metroid games and play them. They're really awesome. Ridley, it's super effective. Like, comment, subscribe.
depths of space, and she could easily combine your stupid ass with your face. Her name was Samus Aran, and she would destroy Metroids. When she wasn't totally pissed, she was extremely annoyed. She stood up to every challenge, no matter however demanding, and her courage was amazing, and her boobies were outstanding.
What? Nothing. I was just saying that you're brave. Okay, hey, look over there. It's great.
I'm the strongest dragon that you've ever seen. You're gonna die, motherfucker, I take the fight scream. I'm gonna swallow you whole, and then you'll go down easy. Then you'll be digested and converted to feces. I'll take off your helmet, see the fear in your eyes, and your beautiful hair, and your well-toned thighs, and your pillowy lips.
And wait, you're not a guy?
Is that a problem, you fuck?
No, prepare to die!
Crane was hesitating, but Samus was set to fight. She got into a battle stance that made her butt look super tight. And Crane said,
no, wait, I think there has been a gigantic mistake. I actually just wanted to give you some desserts that I baked.
But Samus said,
what pisses me off most in this world is when enemies get nice when they all find out I'm a girl. So do me a favor and take your cakes and your pies and shove them so far up your ass that they end up behind your eyes. Stop treating me like I'm a sex object. Mother brings a woman, but she gets respect.
Yeah, Crane, you never talk to me that way.
Oh, gosh, I wonder if it's because of your huge, disgusting brain.
Get the fuck
killed the puppies.
Super Metroid. Das beste Action-Adventure für Super Nintendo. 24 Meg. Größer als Zelda. Überraschender als Mario. Fesselnder als jeder Kinothriller. 95 Spielspaßpunkte. Gäbe es einen Oscar für das packendste und spannendste Videospiel, wäre Super Metroid für das Super Nintendo Kandidat Nummer 1. Schreibt Maniac in seiner Ausgabe 794.
Nintendo Presents Super Metroid, das beste Action-Adventure für Super Nintendo. 24 Macs, die unter die Haut gehen. 6 gigantische Welten. Nur für Super Nintendo.
コスモ歴 20X7。私が惑星 SR388 から持ち帰った謎の生命体ベビーメトロイドの研究は順調に進んでいるかに思えた。しかし
銀河連邦警察より緊急指令。ベビーメトロイドが奪われた。直ちに奪い返せ。
私の名はサムス・アラン。メトロイドをめぐる死闘が再び始まろうとしている。
宇宙海賊は惑星ゼーベスを要塞と化し、地下深く潜伏している。頼んだぞ。
降りしきる酸性雨の中に降り立った私は一人地下要塞へと向かった。なぜこんなに静かなの？緊張する私の前に突如巨大な超人の像が現れた。アイテムだ。こんな薄気味の悪いところからは早く逃げなければ。敵だ。私は一心不乱に撃ち続けた。甘く見ないでよ。死闘の日々が続いた。戦いは日ごとに激しさを増してきている。こいつら次から次に湧いてきやがる。ここは来た。なんだこいつは。どうやらこの生物がこのエリアのボスらしい。これでも食らえ。さらに行く手には暗い地下要塞が待ち受けていた。まったく地獄の迷路ね。どう行けばいいのよ。このままでは身動きが取れない。もう一歩も先へ進めなくなってしまった。もがき苦しむ日々が続いたある日、道だ。これで少しは前進できる。潜入して何日が経ったのだろう。もう戦う気力も尽きかけている。ベビーメトロイド。その時私は確かに聞いた。ベビーメトロイドが私を呼ぶ声。生まれて初めて見たこの私をベビーメトロイドは母親だと思っている。取り戻すのは私しかいない。私には前進しか許されないのだ。しまった。溶岩の灼熱が私を襲った。
レンジャー、エネルギータンク、残り10。
ここでやられるわけにはいかないんだよ。
SF アクションゲームに非常事態。スーパーファミコンソフトスーパーメトロイド。一刻も早い任務の遂行を期待する。
これがメトロイド。
まだ幼虫だ。
しかしこのエネルギーは人類の役に立つかもしれん。
はっ、ベビーメトロイドが回る。
緊急指令。スペースハンターサムス・アラン。さらわれたベビーメトロイドを奪い返す。
スーパーファミコンソフトスーパーメトロイド。とてつもない地下要塞が待ち受けている。
Every Metroid fan knows the series is based off the classic Alien franchise, but let's take a closer look at all the homages, all the references, all the ways that Metroid has gained inspiration from the Alien films over the past 3.5 decades. Let's get the obvious out of the way first, which also allows us to start at the beginning. The original entries in the Alien and Metroid franchises, and almost every entry in both series for that matter, both feature a female protagonist who fights off dangerous, face-hugging aliens in outer space, escape before the countdown reaches 0, causing the facility or ship to explode, and end up scantily clad. In fact, just about every Alien movie and Metroid game ends with a countdown to self-destruct sequence, so rather than mention it again and again, I'll just say now that that's pretty much how they all end, and in some of the games it even happens at the beginning as well. Now into the more specific with Metroid 2, and I'll be using gameplay from the remake rather than the original Game Boy version because it's nicer to look at. In Aliens, the second movie in the franchise, Ripley travels to the alien homeworld LV-426, and before the film's end, takes it upon herself to eradicate the alien race once and for all, or so she thinks. In Metroid 2 Samus Returns, Samus travels to the Metroid homeworld SR-388 to exterminate the Metroid species. Samus possesses a Metroid detector in the 3DS remake that functions much like the motion tracker on Aliens. And at the end of both Metroid 2 and Aliens, the final climactic battle takes place between our heroine and the alien queen, who bear some resemblance. Super Metroid, despite being arguably the most classic game in the series, actually includes the fewest alien homages. Only a couple worth noting, besides the 2 countdown to self-destruct sequences, of course, and they both occur near the game's end. During the escape sequence in the game's final moments, the player is given the option to risk their own life in order to take time to save the animals, in the same way that at the end of Alien, Ripley risks her life during the countdown to save an animal of her own, Jonesy the cat. Just before that, in the final boss fight, still under the assumption Samus is its mother, the Metroid hatchling born at the end of Metroid 2 saves her from Mother Brain, just as the alien newborn killed the alien queen, saving Ripley in Alien Resurrection. And this final scene of Samus escaping the planet Zebes before it explodes seems clearly inspired by the Ripley escape from LV-426 at the end of Aliens. But Alien Resurrection, the 4th movie in the franchise, had far more influence on the 4th Metroid game, Metroid Fusion, which is the game that maybe borrows the most from the Alien films. It's at this point in the Metroid series that the Federation starts to resemble the company from the Alien movies, Weyland-Yutani Corporation. In Alien Resurrection, Ripley is cloned and brought back to life by company scientists. Because she had an alien queen's embryo gestating inside her at the time of her death at the end of Alien 3, their DNA is inseparable during the cloning process, and as a result, she's become a human-alien hybrid. In Metroid Fusion, in order to keep Samus alive, Federation scientists fuse her DNA with that of the Metroid hatchling introduced at the end of Metroid 2, making her a human-Metroid hybrid. Because Ripley is half alien, the aliens don't attack her, just like Samus isn't attacked by the Metroids in the space station for the same reason. Both Fusion and Resurrection feature a scene in which our hero happens upon a restricted lab containing test tubes with the companies, or Federation's, cloning projects in various stages of development, and in both cases the lab is destroyed. In order to prevent the evil Federation, or company, from getting their hands on the aliens, the space station that the entire movie or game has taken place on is set to collide with Earth in order to destroy it, or in Metroid's case, to collide with the alien homeworld SR-388. Oh, and you save the animals again. Metroid Prime and its sequel don't borrow quite as liberally from the movie franchise, only in the game's opening, and that may owe to the fact that instead of Nintendo R&D 1 developing this game directly in Japan, as every game had been up to this point, this time Nintendo handed the reins over to Texas-based Retro Studios. Right from the start, the entire concept of investigating a mysterious distress beacon is lifted from the Alien films. Of course, we have the obligatory countdown to self-destruct sequence on the frigate shortly after, but other than that, there's really not much to go on. Prime 2's got nothing worth mentioning, so as far as Alien homages, Retro really dropped the ball here with Metroid Prime. Until Metroid Prime 3, that is. The Berserker Lord being sucked out into the vacuum of space is an obvious reference to when the Alien Queen is sucked into space in Aliens, or the end of just about any Alien movie. Almost all of them end with an alien being sucked out into space. Samus being forced to kill her fellow bounty hunters when they're infected with Phazon is much like when Ripley is forced to kill her fellow humans in several of the Alien movies after their impregnation by the aliens. As Ripley destroys the alien home planet LV-426 in a nuclear explosion to exterminate the species, so Samus destroys the planet Phase in order to wipe out Phazon. And yet again, we have another escape the self-destructing vessel, get to the emergency pod, but forced to take an unexpected detour sequence. I only mention it this time because Metroid doesn't usually give us the full escape experience, the unexpected detour being the cherry on top that's usually missing. And finally, the similarities in Metroid to Other M are so numerous and the game so plot-heavy that it might as well have been called Aliens the Game. However, it would take so long to list them all out, and I cared for this game so little that I'm going to go ahead and just call it a day with the end of the Prime Trilogy and wrap things up here. I don't know, maybe it deserves its own video all on its own some other time. Okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.
What's up, folks? Hope you guys enjoyed the pregame entertainment. I know I did. I'm gonna pair my controller real quick. Been off for a while. Please connect. Please connect. My name is Ryan, for the record. Hope you guys have prepared for the greatest game of all time. This will be a full 100% run. If I can get my controller working. Try this again. Might have to just plug it in. You know, Bluetooth. Bluetooth doesn't really like me. You know how that goes. Let's see here. Try this again. Like, Is 8-bit dough? Is it 8-bit dough? 8-bit dough controllers are they're great and all, but like the battery life on them kind of sucks. So if you're not using them, then might as well keep them turned off, right? But it's not working. I might just plug it in and call it. Because Bluetooth sucks. Okay. Alright, guys. Let's get started here. Please work. Please work. I might have to relaunch. I have to relaunch the damn emulator. Just my luck, nothing works. Let's try it one more time. There it goes. Woot! How you guys doing tonight? I hope you guys can hear me okay. Hopefully the game audio isn't overpowering. Hopefully the levels of my voice sound fine. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not gonna do narration. I'm not gonna do narration. You guys can do your own narration at home.
The last Metroid
Cool.
is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
Good, good, good. Oh, you already redeemed the baby. Alright, let's turn on the baby. Change my window up here a second. Why is the baby so damn slow? Okay. Let's try this again. Good, good, good. Glad everything's working well. I played this. Oh my god, 27 viewers. I hope you guys enjoyed that that pre-game entertainment. Like I made that on a whim out of all of our insane amount of Metroid YouTube videos, and those were some good ones. Those were some good ones. I might do that again sometime. Cool. Glad you guys liked that. Space Colony. I also have to, like, keep reminding myself that I'm not doing a speed run because I'm so used to doing a speed run. So I just gotta, you know, slow down, take in the sights. I know, I've been losing sleep over Dread. I really have. I don't know about you guys. I have been losing sleep over it. I've never worked so hard on Metroid in my whole life. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I have definitely been working quite a bit. See if I can get it to drop the baby. He probably won't. Probably get hit too many times. Nope. Didn't hit him enough. If you hit him enough, he will drop the baby and then he just picks it up and runs away. It's funny. Nice little Easter egg there. There's so many friggin' Easter eggs in this game. It's crazy. Like, I didn't know about how you could suck up items with the grapple beam until, like, at least 15 years after this game came out. At least 15 years. Like, you can suck things up with the grapple beam? It's just, ugh, crazy. So many Easter eggs. I'm probably going to start earlier when Dread comes out. I'm thinking of starting at about 5 or 6. It'll probably 6 actually. 6 on Friday, 6 Central Time. When Dread comes out on the 8th, I hope you guys have called off work, because I certainly have on that day. Probably going to be first in line to get my game. I cannot wait. Yep, pretty much. Yeah, I would say if you don't want to be spoiled, stop using social media. You know, just turn it off. Delete the apps from your phone. Do what you gotta do. Just step away from it. You know, like, turn off your phone. Let it die or something. Let your phone die for maybe a week? I don't know. I'm probably just gonna play the game, you know? There's no way the game can be over like 10 hours, you know? I highly doubt it's gonna be any bigger than Samus Returns. Starting to get some weirdness with my controller. I don't know what it is. I don't like it. Definitely don't like it. It's not as responsive as I'd like it to be. Yeah, I'm gonna guess I'll beat it in at least 2-3 days. Maybe by Monday I'll have it beat. Yeah, having controller issues here. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be great. It's really gonna be great. I have utter confidence in Mercury Steam. I think they are a fantastic developer, and clearly every single person that works for that company is a Super Metroid fan. Every single one of them. So I have clear confidence that they can do a good job. I remember dying on that stupid Chorizo the first time I ever played this game. I was like 13. I remember killing that and just being so nervous and being so sad after it killed me. I guess everybody dies on that first Chorizo. Once again, this is going to be 100%. 100% and just lazy run. No speed run here. Just a lazy, casual 100% run. Nothing special. But I really appreciate you guys coming in here and watching with me. Watching me play. It means a lot. I thought about playing Project Base, but I decided against it. I don't know anyone out there who is familiar with hacks, but if you guys ever want to play a really nice hack, there's a good one called Project Base. Super Metroid Project Base. It basically takes Super Metroid and gives it a whole bunch of quality of life fixes. And highly recommended. Highly recommended. It's a fun little hack. Oh yeah, there's a missile up here, isn't there? I'm not gonna do any sequence breaking. I'm gonna just fight everything the way it should be. Even though I'm very tempted, you know I could go in there and get that super missile with a mock ball, but I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. I'm gonna play it the old way. I'll come back later. Come back later. It's hard. It feels wrong. It feels wrong for me to do that, but I'll come back later. I know, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Project Base has been around for quite a while, actually. I would say at least 5 years, 5 6 years. He continuously updates it, though. I know that. Where do I go? I'm blocked by a super missile. Only way to go is up. Just a save room over there, I believe. No missiles or anything. So here's another little Easter egg for you guys. After you kill Spore Spawn and he's all dead like this, if you wall jump off of him, he vibrates like that. Not sure if you guys knew. That's not very well known. Like vibrates. It's kind of weird. Kind of just a weird Easter egg. Just a very weird Easter egg in this game. Like, who thinks to wall jump? At this point, you don't really know about wall jumping, so... whatever. Yeah. Yeah, who tries to use the fishing rod against Ganondorf, really? That's a good point. Side hoppers, use missiles. Use missiles on side hoppers. Hot tip for y'all. Don't even bother with shooting them. Just use a missile, or even a charged beam would probably work against them. But a lot of people don't like using their missiles. They just like hoarding them. But this game gives you plenty of missiles. Have missiles in this game. It's what you're doing to lose all your missiles. It's very difficult to lose your missiles. Yeah. Yeah, I call that the Mega Man effect when you're just not interested in wasting your secondary weapons. It's called the Mega Man effect. When you want to hoard them and not use them. That's my term for it anyway. I call it the Mega Man effect. Alright. So chat, you tell me, should I fight Kraid before high jump or after high jump? What do you think? Before high jump? After high jump? You tell me. I don't know how to do polls. I don't know how to do polls. I'm sorry. Alright, I'll do it. Input lag going on here. Oop. Quick kill. I think I'm probably not going to be able to do quick kill because the amount of input lag going on. So I'm going to have to just wing it and fight them.